Hey everybody, this is Mr. Snyder here. Today we're going to be looking at solving linear equations, okay? I'm going to try to show you as many examples as possible because again, this is a pretty good skill to have when you're doing algebra. So the more examples you see and the more that you practice on your own, the better you'll get at these, okay? So let's just get started with a example. Here we go. 6c minus 2 plus 2c equals 18 is the first problem that we'll be doing together today, okay? When you're doing these problems, one of the first things that I'm going to tell you to do is to try to simplify each side of the equal sign, okay? The left side and the right side. Now the right side, there's not much to do there, but the left side we can simplify a little bit, okay? So you're going to go through the same steps we did when simplifying linear expressions that we did earlier. So let's get started with that. There are no parentheses, so I don't have to do any distributive properties or anything like that. However, what I can do is combine like terms. You'll notice that 6c and 2c share the same variable, so these can be added together. I'm going to start by doing that. 6c plus 2c is going to be 8c. If that has not been played with, you could just drop it straight on down. There we go. Now, we have everything simplified on the left and right of the equal sign. Now it's time to actually solve for the variable, okay? To move the numbers and variables over to whatever side you want on the equal side, you're going to want to do the opposite operation. So here we got 8c minus 2 equals 18. If I want to move this 2 or negative 2 over to this side to join its other number friend, I can go ahead and do the opposite operation. It's a minus 2, therefore I'm going to have to do the opposite of minus, which is to add 2. Okay, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I have now 8c equals 18 plus 2, which is going to give us 20. Now to solve, I'm just going to have to go ahead and look at how can I separate that 8 from the c. It is being multiplied to the c, so to undo multiplication I'm going to use division. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll divide each side by 8 and that cancels, so I get c equals 20 over 8, which is a fraction. Now this is not going to be a nice solid whole number, but what you can do, and what I urge you to do when you're dealing with fractions, is to reduce if that is the case. The biggest number that can go into both of these numbers, or the greatest common factor, is 4, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 4 so that I can reduce that, okay? 20 divided by 4 is going to give me 5, and then 8 divided by 4 is going to give me 2, okay? So c is equal to 5 halves, okay, or 2.5, all right? Let's move on to the next example. The next example that we are going to be doing, I'm going to up the ante a little bit. I got 2 times y plus 5 minus 3 equals 11. Now, same thing as before. I want to simplify both sides of the equal sign before I start moving things onto the other side of the equal sign. So, now there are parentheses, so I'm going to use the distributive property. So 2 times y and 2 times 5. 2y is how I write 2 times y. Plus 2 times 5 is 10. Minus 3 equals 11. All right. Next step would be to combine like terms. There's no variables to combine 2y with, so I'm going to combine these two numbers. 10 minus 3 is 7, so I got 2y plus 7 equals 11. Okay? Now it's time to go ahead and solve. So we want to get that variable by itself. I start by moving the number because that's least attached to the variable. 11 minus 7 is just going to give me 4, so 2y equals 4. Now I can separate that multiplication problem through division, so I'm going to divide each side by 2, and I get y equals 2 as my answer. Success! Alright, let's go on to the next one. Alright, the next one I got for you today is even more wacky. It's 3 minus 4 times p plus 5, and as I'm writing this down, a good thing for you guys to be doing while I'm doing these problems is to try to pause the video and try to see if you can do it on your own, and If you can, well then skip to the next example. If you can't, then watch my explanation and see if that helps. Okay, if that still doesn't help, call me on over, I can help you out. Okay, so here we go. First of all, let's simplify both sides of the equal sign. I'm going to start on the left side and I'm going to do the right side at the same time. Let's start with the distributive problem. Okay, so negative 4 times p and negative 4 times 5. And over here I got to do a distributive problem 5 and 2. I'm going to do this all at the same time. So I got 3 minus negative 4 times p is just going to be the minus 4p. Remember, this minus is going to stick with 4 when I do this distributive problem, negative 4 times 5, which is going to give me negative 20, equals 5 times p, which is 5p, and 5 times 2, which is 10, minus 12. Now we can simplify by combining like terms. There are no variables on this side, but there are numbers here that can be combined, as well as on this side there are numbers that can be combined, the 10 and the negative 12. All right, so 3 minus 20 is going to give us negative 17. So I got negative 4p minus 17 equals 5p, okay, plus 10 minus 12, which is negative 2. Alrighty, now this is something that usually messes people up because we're at this point and we actually it looks kind of unfamiliar from the ones we did before because you got a variable and number on one side and a variable and number on the other side. What you have to do at this point is to try to think to yourself, what side do you want the variable on? What side do you want just the normal numbers hanging out on? I always like to try to move my variables to the left side and my numbers to the right side. It really just depends on the situation. This time I'm going to try to move all my p's to the left side, sorry, and my numbers to the right. Okay, so I'm going to start by moving this guy. All right, so I'm going to move this 5p by subtracting it because it's positive right now, and I'm going to move that over here. That's going to result in a negative 9p. Minus 17 equals negative 2. And at this point, you are absolutely correct in thinking that we just have to move the 17 over, which I'm going to do next. Add 17, and I get negative 9p. And negative 2 plus 17 is going to be equal to positive 15. All right. Now I'm going to divide each side by negative 9. Divide by negative 9. And there is my answer. P is going to equal negative 15 over 9. Now we can reduce this fraction. The common denominator, or the greatest common denominator between 15 and 9 is 3. So after reducing, what you should end up getting is that negative 15 divided by 3 is 5, and then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Negative 5/3 as your answer. Okay. Let's try one more, okay? The next one, we are going to be dealing with some fractions in the equation, and I will tell you a quick little rule you can use to get rid of fractions to make your equations just a little bit easier to solve, okay? So I got 1/2 x plus 2/3 x equals 14 over 3, okay? When you're doing these problems, it's really important to get rid of these denominators, okay? Or get rid of the fractions altogether. To do that, what you can do is look at all the fractions you have in your problem and look for a common multiple between the fractions, okay? Or the fraction denominators. If you look at 2 and 3, common multiple between 2 and 3 is going to be 6, okay? If you multiply every single term in this equation by 6, what's going to happen is you are going to lose all of your fractions, okay? So again, get a common multiple and then just multiply everything in the equation by that common multiple, and that will result in getting rid of your fractions. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so I'm going to show my work by using parentheses. I'm going to multiply this side by 6. I'm going to multiply this side by 6, okay? So 6 times 1/2 plus 6 times 2/3, okay, so on and so forth. So let's distribute this, okay? 6 times 1/2 x is going to be 6 over 2x when I multiply that. 6 times 2/3 is just going to be 12 over 3x. Equals 6 times 14. I'm not really positive what that is, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my calculator because that's always available for me. is going to be 84, okay, over 3. And you'll notice here a lot of these are going to be easy to solve now. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 6 divided by 2 is just going to be 3x, plus 12 divided by 3, and that's just going to give me 4x, equals 84 over 3. And if you're not sure what that is, again, you can use that calculator, divide that by 3, and you're going to get that to be 28. Alrighty, now we can just solve it as normal. We can combine like terms here because we got to simplify each side of the equal sign. That's going to give us 7x equals 28. You know the deal from here on out. I'm going to divide by 7, and I get x equals 4 as my answer. Alright, that's it for today. I'm going to have a follow-up video with a couple more examples for you, but until then, just go ahead and keep practicing those linear equations. Alright, see you next time. Bye.